Carl Jung discovered that the four introverted intuitive types possess extraordinary professional potential that remains largely untapped because they try to succeed using strategies designed for extroverted sensing types. But when INFJ, INFP, INTJ, and INTP personalities make five specific inner psychological shifts, they transform from workplace misfits into the most respected and influential professionals in their organizations. Before we dive into these revolutionary inner shifts that will completely transform how you're perceived and valued at work, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, because what you're about to learn will unlock professional respect and influence you never thought possible with your personality type. Jung understood that workplace respect isn't just about competence or hard work, but about psychological presence, the ability to project confidence, authority, and value through your natural personality strengths, rather than trying to imitate extroverted leadership styles that feel inauthentic and exhausting. For the four introverted intuitive types, traditional workplace advice often backfires because it asks them to become someone they're not, rather than helping them leverage who they naturally are. Jung recognized that these types have unique professional gifts that, when properly developed and expressed, create extraordinary respect and influence. The challenge is that most workplace environments are designed around extroverted sensing preferences, immediate action, visible productivity, social networking, and conventional leadership styles. This can make introverted intuitive types feel like they don't fit or that they need to fundamentally change their nature to succeed professionally. But Jung's insights reveal that the opposite is true. When these types learn to work with their natural psychological design rather than against it, they become incredibly powerful and respected professionals because they offer capabilities that most workplaces desperately need but rarely find. The first inner shift Jung identified is moving from seeking external validation to developing what he called internal authority. Most INFJ, INFP, INTJ, and INTP personalities enter the workplace looking for approval, recognition, and validation from supervisors and colleagues, which immediately puts them in a subordinate psychological position. Jung recognized that these types have natural authority that comes from their depth, insight, and unique perspectives, but they often don't recognize or claim this authority because they're focused on fitting in rather than standing out. The shift to internal authority means recognizing that your value doesn't come from others' approval, but from your genuine contributions and unique capabilities. When you operate from internal authority, you stop seeking permission and start offering leadership through your natural strengths. For INFJs, internal authority means trusting your psychological insights and presenting them with confidence rather than tentatively suggesting ideas and waiting for validation. Instead of saying, "I might be wrong, but I think," you learn to say, "My analysis suggests," or "I've identified a pattern that indicates." For INFPs, internal authority means standing behind your values and authentic perspectives rather than trying to blend in or avoid conflict. You learn to present your ideas as valuable contributions rather than personal opinions that others might reject. For INTJs, internal authority means presenting your strategic insights and long-term thinking as essential business intelligence rather than interesting theories. You learn to position yourself as someone who sees what others miss rather than someone who has different ideas. For INTPs, internal authority means presenting your analytical insights and systematic thinking as crucial problem-solving capabilities rather than academic exercises. You learn to translate your theoretical understanding into practical business value. Jung observed that when these types make this shift to internal authority, their entire professional presence changes. They stop apologizing for their perspectives and start presenting them as valuable contributions that others should take seriously. This shift also changes how others perceive them. Instead of seeing them as insecure employees seeking approval, colleagues and supervisors begin to see them as confident professionals who bring unique value and deserve respect. The key to developing internal authority is recognizing that your natural way of thinking and perceiving is not a limitation to be overcome, but a strength to be leveraged. Your depth, complexity, and unique perspectives are exactly what many organizations need, but struggle to find. The second inner shift Jung identified is moving from reactive communication to what he called strategic influence. Most introverted intuitive types communicate reactively at work, responding to others' agendas, answering questions when asked, and participating in discussions when invited. This reactive approach keeps them in subordinate positions because they're always responding to others' initiatives rather than setting direction or influencing outcomes. Jung recognized that these types have natural strategic thinking abilities that can be used to shape conversations and influence decisions. Strategic influence means shifting from answering questions to asking the right questions, from responding to agendas to setting agendas, and from participating in discussions to directing conversations toward important insights and considerations. For INFJs, strategic influence means using your psychological insight to understand the hidden dynamics and motivations in workplace situations, then strategically sharing insights that help others see important patterns they're missing. Instead of waiting to be asked for your opinion, you learn to proactively identify when your insights would be valuable and present them in ways that influence decision-making and problem-solving. For INFPs, strategic influence means connecting workplace decisions to values and long-term consequences that others might not be considering. You learn to frame your authentic perspectives as important considerations for sustainable success. You shift from avoiding conflict to strategically introducing value-based considerations that help organizations make better decisions aligned with their stated principles and long-term interests. For INTJs, strategic influence means using your systems, thinking, and future orientation to help others understand long-term implications and strategic considerations they might be overlooking. You learn to position your strategic insights as essential business intelligence that prevents problems and identifies opportunities that others miss. For INTPs, strategic influence means using your analytical abilities to identify logical flaws, systemic problems, and innovative solutions that others haven't considered. You shift from analyzing problems privately to strategically sharing your analysis in ways that influence decision-making and problem-solving processes. Jung observed that when these types make this shift to strategic influence, they move from being seen as contributors to being seen as leaders, even when they don't hold formal leadership positions. The key to strategic influence is learning to time your communications for maximum impact, frame your insights in language that others can understand and act upon, and position yourself as someone who helps others make better decisions rather than someone who has different opinions. The third inner shift Jung identified is moving from perfectionist paralysis to what he called iterative excellence. All four introverted intuitive types tend toward perfectionism, which can create professional paralysis where they delay sharing ideas, avoid taking initiative, or spend excessive time perfecting work that could be improved through feedback and collaboration. Jung recognized that perfectionism, while it can produce high-quality work, often prevents these types from demonstrating their capabilities and building professional respect because they're so focused on avoiding mistakes that they avoid taking visible action. Iterative excellence means shifting from trying to produce perfect results immediately to producing excellent work that can be refined and improved through feedback and collaboration. This approach allows these types to demonstrate their capabilities while still maintaining their high standards. For INFJs, Iterative excellence means sharing your psychological insights and intuitive understanding even when you can't fully explain or prove them, then working with others to develop and refine these insights into actionable strategies. You learn to present your insights as valuable starting points for exploration rather than complete solutions that must be perfect before sharing. For INFPs, iterative excellence means expressing your authentic perspectives and value-based considerations even when you haven't fully developed them into comprehensive proposals, then collaborating with others to refine and implement these ideas. You shift from waiting until your ideas are perfectly articulated to sharing your authentic insights and working with others to develop them further. For INTJs, iterative excellence means presenting your strategic frameworks and long-term thinking as working models that can be tested and refined rather than complete systems that must be perfect before implementation. You learn to share your strategic insights as valuable frameworks for decision-making rather than final answers that must be flawless. For INTPs, iterative excellence means sharing your analytical insights and theoretical understanding as useful models for understanding problems rather than complete solutions that must be perfect before presentation. You shift from analyzing problems to completion privately, to sharing your analytical process and insights as valuable contributions to problem-solving efforts. Jung observed that when these types make this shift to iterative excellence, they become much more visible and influential at work because they're actively contributing to discussions and decision-making rather than perfecting ideas in isolation. This shift also allows them to build on their natural strengths through collaboration rather than trying to compensate for perceived weaknesses through perfectionism. The key to iterative excellence is recognizing that your natural thinking processes are valuable even when incomplete, and that sharing your insights and working with others to develop them further often produces better results than trying to perfect everything independently. The fourth inner shift Jung identified is moving from energy depletion to what he called strategic energy management. Most introverted intuitive types struggle with workplace energy management because they try to maintain the same energy output throughout the day and across all activities, which leads to burnout and decreased performance. Jung recognized that these types have natural energy rhythms and optimal performance conditions that, when honored and strategically managed, can actually give them professional advantages over more extroverted colleagues. Strategic energy management means understanding your natural energy patterns and designing your work approach to maximize your effectiveness during peak periods while protecting your energy during challenging periods. For INFJs, strategic energy management means recognizing that your psychological insight and intuitive understanding are strongest when you're well-rested and emotionally balanced, then structuring your work to maximize these peak insight periods. You learn to schedule important meetings, creative work, and strategic thinking during your natural energy peaks, while using lower energy periods for routine tasks and administrative work. You also learn to protect your energy by setting boundaries around emotional labor and psychological processing, recognizing that your insights are valuable professional assets that require energy investment to maintain. For INFPs, strategic energy management means recognizing that your creativity and authentic expression are strongest when you feel emotionally safe and aligned with your values. Then, creating work conditions that support these optimal states. You learn to structure your work around your natural creative rhythms and to advocate for work arrangements that allow you to contribute your authentic strengths rather than forcing yourself into incompatible roles or environments. You also learn to manage the emotional energy required for workplace interactions by building in recovery time and creating supportive relationships that energize rather than drain you. For INTJs, strategic energy management means recognizing that your strategic thinking and systems analysis are strongest when you have uninterrupted time for deep thinking, then protecting and maximizing these focused work periods. You learn to batch similar activities, minimize interruptions during peak thinking periods, and communicate your need for focused work time as a professional requirement rather than a personal preference. You also learn to manage the energy drain of excessive meetings and social interactions by building in recovery time and focusing your social energy on strategically important relationships and conversations. For INTPs, strategic energy management means recognizing that your analytical thinking and creative problem-solving are strongest when you have freedom to explore ideas without pressure or interruption, then creating work conditions that support this optimal state. You learn to structure your work to maximize periods of unstructured thinking time while meeting necessary deadlines and commitments through strategic planning and time management. You also learn to manage the energy drain of routine tasks and administrative work by batching these activities and balancing them with intellectually stimulating projects that energize you. Jung observed that when these types make this shift to strategic energy management, they often outperform more extroverted colleagues because they're working with their natural design rather than against it. This shift also increases their professional respect because they're consistently performing at high levels, rather than experiencing the energy crashes and burnout that come from poor energy management. The key to strategic energy management is recognizing that your energy patterns are not weaknesses to be overcome, but natural rhythms to be honored and leveraged for optimal performance. The fifth inner shift Jung identified is moving from invisible contribution to what he called visible value creation. Most introverted intuitive types make significant contributions at work that go unrecognized because they work behind the scenes, share credit generously, and don't effectively communicate the value of their contributions. Jung recognized that these types often have the most valuable insights and contributions in their organizations, but they fail to receive recognition and respect because they don't make their value visible to decision makers and colleagues. Visible value creation means learning to document, communicate, and claim credit for your contributions in ways that help others understand and appreciate the value you bring to the organization. For INFJs, visible value creation means documenting and communicating the insights you provide, the problems you help solve, and the improvements that result from your psychological understanding and intuitive guidance. You learn to track the outcomes of your recommendations, quantify the value of your insights when possible, and communicate your contributions in language that others can understand and appreciate. You also learn to position yourself as someone who provides valuable psychological intelligence and strategic insight rather than just being helpful or supportive. For INFPs, visible value creation means documenting and communicating how your authentic perspectives, value-based considerations, and creative contributions improve outcomes and align work with organizational values. You learn to track the positive results of your authentic input, demonstrate how your value-based approach prevents problems and improves sustainability, and position yourself as someone who helps organizations maintain integrity and authenticity. You also learn to communicate your contributions in terms of business value rather than just personal expression or values alignment. For INTJs, visible value creation means documenting and communicating the strategic insights you provide, the long-term problems you help prevent, and the opportunities you help identify through your systems thinking. You learn to track the outcomes of your strategic recommendations, quantify the value of your long-term thinking when possible, and position yourself as someone who provides essential strategic intelligence. You also learn to communicate your contributions in terms of competitive advantage and business results, rather than just interesting analysis or different perspectives. For INTPs, visible value creation means documenting and communicating the analytical insights you provide, the problems you help solve, and the innovations that result from your systematic thinking and creative analysis. You learn to track the outcomes of your analytical work, demonstrate how your insights improve decision-making and problem-solving, and position yourself as someone who provides valuable intellectual capital. You also learn to translate your theoretical insights into practical business language that others can understand and act upon. Jung observed that when these types make this shift to visible value creation, they often discover that they've been significantly undervalued and that their contributions are much more important to organizational success than they realized. This shift also dramatically increases their professional respect and influence because others finally understand and appreciate the unique value they bring to the organization. The key to visible value creation is learning to think like a business owner about your contributions, documenting and communicating your value in terms that others can understand and appreciate, and positioning yourself as someone who creates measurable value rather than just doing good work. Jung believed that when INFJ, INFP, INTJ, and INTP personalities make these 5 inner shifts, they transform from workplace outsiders trying to fit into respected professionals who are valued for their unique contributions and natural strengths. The ultimate goal isn't to become more extroverted or to change your fundamental nature, but to learn how to express your natural gifts in ways that create professional respect and influence. Jung recognized that organizations desperately need the depth, insight, authenticity, and strategic thinking that these types naturally provide. But these contributions often go unrecognized because they're not packaged and presented in ways that others can understand and appreciate. When these types learn to work with their psychological design rather than against it, they often become the most respected and influential professionals in their organizations because they offer capabilities that are rare and valuable in most workplace environments. The key is recognizing that your natural way of thinking and working is not a limitation to be overcome, but a competitive advantage to be leveraged for professional success and organizational contribution. These 5 inner shifts don't require you to become someone different, but they do require you to become more conscious and strategic about how you express your natural gifts in professional environments. Jung's ultimate insight is that professional respect comes not from conforming to others' expectations, but from confidently expressing your authentic value in ways that others can recognize and appreciate. When you make these inner shifts, you stop trying to succeed despite your personality type and start succeeding because of your personality type, which creates sustainable professional satisfaction and genuine respect from colleagues and supervisors. If this video has helped you understand how to transform your professional presence and gain the respect you deserve at work, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Share in the comments which inner shift resonates most with your experience. And remember that your greatest professional strength comes from embracing and strategically expressing your natural psychological gifts, rather than trying to imitate others' approaches that don't align with your authentic nature.